This year, I finally started watching some queer films again. I watched Red, White, and Royal Blue. Very cute, loved it. An X played LIE for me, as well as the first few scenes from North Sea, Texas. Beautiful movies. Painful. I watched The Favorite, Saltborn, Maestro, Bottoms, Poor Things, and Down Low. I also watched Call Me By Your Name. I'd seen discourse about it ever since it came out. I'd heard about the peach scene and seen a clip of Tim Chalamet sitting in front of the fire. It's a gorgeous film. A painful film. I eagerly consumed every single second of it. The long shots, the quietness, the music, the love, the loss, the sex, the pain. It is very much my type of filmmaking. Suddenly, I couldn't understand the discourse on it, though. Everyone wanted to complain about the love story. It's not a romance, because there is no happily ever after, but there is a love story. It's a love story, isn't it? But I don't think so. Call Me By Your Name is not a love story. It's a story about love, and there is a difference. The second lets it settle into its true form. A hopeful sort of tragedy. And God, was it relatable. 1. The Italian elephant in the room. Most of the time when Call Me By Your Name comes up, you're going to run into one of 3 controversies. First, the actors were straight. Listen, that does not matter no matter what people try to tell you. It has not mattered, and it will not matter, ever. You cannot start asking performers to disclose their sexuality as a condition for their hiring. You do not know these people personally, and you do not know their sexualities. You're not entitled to that information. You wouldn't be entitled to it even if you did know them personally. People complain about this all the time with straight actors playing gay, but it's such a nothing controversy that seems to completely ignore what acting is as an art form. The fact that LGBT actors have historically gotten fewer roles after coming out does not mean that all queer roles must be played by our community. It means we just need to get hired more often for jobs with better pay. Part of that means everyone else needs to go out and watch a whole bunch of independent films, including the random ones you come across on Amazon, or if people put it up here on YouTube, that maybe aren't as technically competent as big studio films. Maybe they don't go up your alley at all. But supporting that kind of art is how you get more people, more jobs, more pay, so they can continue to grow and make more films so that we can get more and more better, representative, good art. The second controversy you might come across, Miham is a cannibal. He's not. Insert a 3-hour-long video on fantasy here. That's also missing the point. Hammer isn't accused of literally going out and eating people. He was accused of sexual assault. That's not as gasping gossip-worthy as it tends to get buried. So it tends to get buried under the rest of it, but that is the important part of that. It's fine if his involvement makes you want to avoid the film. Everyone has different stances on engaging with art made by problematic people or associated with them. Personally, I don't particularly care about that debate. I find it uninteresting. The third controversy is a big old Italian elefante roaming around with tusks made of garlic bread, eyes of meatball, and a body of spaghetti noodles. I'm done with the accent. I'm Italian, so again, I'm allowed to make stupid, not really funny jokes. Burned into the noodles are the words age gap. Call Me By Your Name follows a romance between 17-year-old Elio, played by Timmy the real OG Chalamet, and 24-year-old Army Let Me Nom Nom Nommy on You, Army Hammer. Tim is a young-looking 17. It probably comes in part from his whole, Victorian-era twink vibe he's got going on. Army was in his 30s, and he looked it. Thinking about it now, it calls to mind the casting from the Divergent series. Triss looked like a, teenager, and Fora looked like a full-ass man. As Vishali Alagappan puts it in Wake magazine, on a good day, Chalamet looks like a 15-year-old, and Hammer looks like a middle-aged man. So the difference is jarring on screen. If there's one thing the internet loves, it's talking about age gaps. That is putting it a little bit unfairly. Age gap doesn't sound quite so serious as pedophilia, which is what most people mean when they're talking about Call Me By Your Name's age gap, especially if they're pointing out how young Tim looks. Alec Appin points out that Chalamet's character Elio is portrayed as obviously young and innocent. The professor and his wife call Elio Ellie Belly and rub his tummy. He is doe-eyed, curious, and submissive. My instinct is to roll my eyes at this discourse and throw up a giant sign that says, "Sometimes bad stuff happens in fiction, and that doesn't mean the art is bad." A lot of people who like to play moral cinema sins are entirely allergic to the idea that depiction is not endorsement, and that sometimes in art, endorsement is also not endorsement. Action films that go, "Look at all this cool violence, isn't that neato?" probably aren't actually advocating for violence and saying that it's actually really cool if you do it. But I do think critique is a good thing. I appreciate it. Yes, the age difference here, if this were real life, would be disturbing, inappropriate, and gross. And calling the film dangerous because of this, an article in Psychiatric Times says, "This film is about sexual predation. One could argue that Oliver grooms Elio by moving into the household, spending time with him, enduring trust before advancing to a sexual relationship that is secretive. In light of the Me Too movement and the endeavor to eradicate sexual abuse bred by an inappropriate power dynamic, this film promotes a dangerous message." Conservative moron Chad Felix Green jumped in to say, "It is more than just a movie or a book. It is a cultural message to teenagers to seek out adult partners and romanticize relationships they are not yet able to manage." But that only makes sense as a controversy if the film portrays their love as a positive thing. This whole thing only makes sense if you think Call Me By Your Name is a 2. Love story. What defines a romance? When you're talking about real life, who the hell knows? It defies a lot of concrete categorization. Could be a lot of tossing in bed sheets. It could be teasing each other. It could be silly dates. Or, more, less, whatever. What about in fiction, though? Romance is a genre. Every genre has a couple of rules. A mystery has to have a mystery, for instance. Who could have guessed? In romance, there is a single large requirement that you must always meet. The couple in the story must have a happily ever after ending. The only exception to that is if you are writing a series and instead they get a happily for now ending in the individual story. All subgenres also have to follow this rule. Is Call Me By Your Name a romance? No. Oliver leaves. He gets in a romance with someone else. We end the film with Elio staring into the fire while his family sets the table for a holiday dinner behind him. He cries. We end the film with the young lover heartbroken and in despair. So it isn't a romance, but everyone talks about how it's about love. After all, the plot surrounds Elio and Oliver getting to know each other. Elio finally taking the steps to reveal himself to Oliver, the two of them taking the chance, stepping into each other, experimenting, being sexual, going on a trip together, and getting broken. It is about love. It's about their love, isn't it? Well, no. This might be a hot take, but Call Me By Your Name isn't about the couple. It isn't really about Oliver at all, actually. But it is a love story in that it is a story about love. Specifically, it is about Elio's capability for love, and by extension, ours. It's about the concept of young love. While Elio is attracted to Oliver and trying to understand what he feels and how he interacts with it, we do see him with a girl. She's an important person in his life. They're pursuing a sort of romantic and sexual relationship, which honestly I didn't really expect when I pressed play. I thought Timmy was just gonna be a gay twink the whole way through. But he's not. He has feelings of some kind for this girl. It's a sort of love. He adores her and she adores him. But he isn't in love with her. That becomes clear as he falls head over heels for Oliver. Oliver is Elio's first true love. It isn't something that he's experienced before, and it recontextualizes what he feels for this girl. When he and her meet whilst he's mad at Oliver, I saw that not just as an adolescent attempt at revenge against Oliver, but as Elio trying to see if he could return to that other form of love and be content with it. He couldn't. Is that because being with her was an exploration of comp-het? Or was it more about how he hadn't actually fallen in love with her? They loved each other. They weren't in love with each other. When Elio returns from his trip with Oliver, alone and heartbroken, desperate, despairing, they meet again. She recognizes the sadness in him. They don't reinitiate what they had before, but they do hug. The two of them recognize the pain inside each other, and they recognize that whatever they feel, it's a form of love. They're there for each other. They want to help the other person and be helped in turn by them. If we see this as a story about love, and specifically about Elio's love, instead of being about a specific love story, we can start to contextualize some of the ickiness it gives a lot of people who want to engage in discourse, which is some people's favorite thing to do. Oliver rejects Elio at first. When I watched it, it seemed like Oliver found the idea inappropriate because of their age and because he himself was in the closet, a taboo laid over them. And he sees that. We see that. But Elio doesn't. Elio sees something beautiful and has taken the risk to give himself over. To give yourself is a sort of death. After Elio and Oliver have been sexual with each other, Elio masturbates with a peach. Apparently, in the book, Oliver consumes the peach, nom nom nom, ejaculate and all. Looking back on it, Elio regards it as if Oliver was telling him, "I believe with every cell in my body that every cell in yours must never die, and if it does have to die, let it die inside my body." Had Armie Hammer read that passage and said, "Oh, yes, Vor, sign me up." Yes, that is a joke, but really isn't consumption the truest form of desire? In the book here, Elio is devoured by Oliver. A part of him becomes his. And it goes there to die, to nurture Oliver, to transform from Elio's cells into Oliver's cells. To give yourself is a death. Looking back, in the book, Elio welcomes such death. The scene in the movie, though, is a bit overwhelming. Oliver goes to scoop out some of Elio's emission and consume it, and Elio freaks out. This hurts. He doesn't want Oliver to eat it. It's gross. He's gross. Oliver wants to eat the peach. Elio starts to cry. It's no longer about the peach. He doesn't want Oliver to go. But I want to posit that this is still about the peach, actually, and it is still about consumption, and therefore it's kind of about death. Their time together is ending. If Elio gives himself to Oliver, if he goes inside his lover to die, and Oliver leaves him, then Elio will die alone, incomplete and undevoured. Near the end of the movie, Elio's father gives him a little speech where he tells him how important and beautiful what Elio and Oliver had together was. He mentions that most people don't even get to experience that once. It was beautiful. It's an emotional scene and it's supposed to help in a way, but it really hurt to watch. Elio's father is implied to also be gay, but because of society, he's pursued the life he has with Elio's mother. Elio giving himself like this, like he almost did with the peach, sharing moments together with this man, takes strength and vulnerability. Many gay men of the same time would never have the ability to experience their own hearts so fully. But it doesn't seem like he's really talking about Oliver here. The dad is going on, and it's all about Elio. It's Elio's ability to love, to give himself, to feel, to care, to hurt. These are all within him, because this has all been about Elio and his love. If you disagree, I do want you to at least rewatch the film from a filter of thinking about it as exploring Elio's love and not being about the couple. Marcus Tran argues that most people view the antagonist of the film to be time itself. That's what gets in the way of their relationship. Focusing in on the professor's speech to Elio after the boy's heart is broken and seeing Oliver's engagement announcement, Tran argues instead that the antagonist is the heteronormative society, homophobia, the judgment and hate that exists outside of this small, beautiful community, this brief moment in time and space. If those are the antagonists, if we view this as a romantic tragedy, what is the antagonist if it's about Elio's love? Oliver. What do you do when the person you love, the object of your affection, is the thing that hurts you over and over again? 3. tragedy. Cast your mind to your first love. How did it end? Did it hurt? What would happen if, when that pain is fresh, someone you looked up to told you that it was rare and beautiful and you should be proud of it? Do you sit there waiting for a call? Did the call tell you there was no future, but still, you sweet precious thing, still I love you and I remember us, and maybe I'll come around to you if I'm ever brave enough. A lot of the commentary I've read has painted the film as evil because they think Oliver is cruel. He takes advantage of a sweet, innocent young man. He is domineering and a bit of a bully. He's an adult. He is well educated and obviously is the target of affection of a lot of people. He's aware how short his time here is, and he's aware that he'll return to the States, back to his life, back to the girls and the expectations, and he'll leave all this beauty behind. Oliver is old enough to know all of this and what it means. Elio is too innocent to grasp how the world is crueler than his freshly opened heart. And well, I think they're half right. By that, I mean, no, I don't think the movie is problematic, but I do think their negative ideas of Oliver are correct. Oliver sucks. He's handsome and charming and smart, and when you love someone like him, it feels amazing. But he makes sure he's in control the whole time. He decides when it starts, when it ends, what boundaries exist. He'll push yours and strongly enforce his own. He'll tease you until you cry, and then he'll comfort you. He brings you in, and then he gets to run away. At the end of the film, Oliver remembers his love with Elio. Yes, he remembers it. Maybe he'll end up like Elio's father, unhappy, though trying to be or pretending to be heterosexual. Or maybe he's bi, who knows. It seems like at the end, though, he gets to escape the pain. He takes the good memories, the good parts of Elio that he has consumed, and he gets to be happy. Elio's not happy. At the end of the movie, Elio is broken. His precious love was taken and treasured and quashed by a man who gets to love someone else, who gets to move on. Elio can't even move. He's right where Oliver left him, sitting at the restaurant and everything else that Taylor Swift says. This is a beautiful movie in part because of the scenery, the lighting, the blocking, the script, the acting, the beautiful people, the music, the feels, the smells. But it's really, truly beautiful because it hurts. It doesn't hurt because the perfect lovers don't end up together, because life gets in the way or something. It hurts because Elio's beautiful, frightened, innocent, encompassing love is settling into him like a sickness. 4. Pain. You're a special person who deserves a special person. I cannot be that person. That's what my first love and ex told me when we ended things a couple years ago. It was one of the kinder things that was said. I spent that Christmas crying. I was the same for that coming birthday and Valentine's. Sometimes in a blue moon, he would text me afterwards. My heart would soar. Yes, please talk to me. I love you. I know I shouldn't, but I love you. Then a couple of weeks later, he'd push me away again. I'm a dark-haired Italian who has dedicated a large amount of my life to music. I compose and play, though not the piano. I am timid. I'd like to tease people. I will write you silly letters and imagine our names together, hold on to your clothes so I can have your smell when I go home from our dates. I fell in love with another artist type. Like Oliver, he was tall and handsome. He'd share his work with me and we'd enjoy it together. He only ever complimented my art once. I'm not Jewish, though he assumed I was. It was my first time being in love with someone, and that was amazing and terrifying. And it hurt so horridly. When I heard Elio's father's speech, it was like my own brain had jumped into the character. Only the words were being tainted because of that. What you two had was special, my brain said, and it will never happen for you again. That was your one chance for happiness. Be glad you got to experience it, and settle in that for the rest of your life, because it will not come again. It was supposed to be him. The love you shared was special, and now it is dead, and you will never find it again. I cried a lot after watching the movie. I'd been single for about 2 years by that point. To still be hurting was kind of ridiculous. I felt like a fool. He found love again so easily too after me. Even if that ended, it still felt like another whisper from the universe. My Oliver was lovable. He'd find plenty to love him, and he'd find it easy and be happy, but me, though, the Elio, I was trapped by the fireplace, yearning, aching, wishing. It hurt. God, it hurt. Call Me By Your Name is a reminder that the love was still beautiful. The capacity to love fully and innocently, scared and vulnerable, to offer yourself for consumption and death. That's beautiful. And what others may do to that love might hurt terribly, but that doesn't remove any of the beauty. The good memories are there. The good love was there. You were there. It was your love. Your love was the truly beautiful thing. The rest was just window dressing, and that capacity within you, that's why it hurts. Eventually, you will return to yourself, and beauty will come back to the world once you get the chance to offer up that love again. It's just scary to do so, and it hurts when it fails. And maybe the loves you have are with people who take advantage of you. Problematic, as people might say. But love anyway, you beautiful fool. That's what the movie says. That's the only beauty in the world. It's the only hot summer sun, and it's the only flame in the fireplace. The warmth will come again. Huddle in the cold in the meanwhile. Ache and yearn and cry. It happened. I remember it all. You'll be okay one day. Eventually, we will gain another name. In lieu of doing my normal, here I'm gonna throw up a demo track from one of my musicals over the credits, because there aren't many sources here. I thought I'd do a fun thing, since this is one of the works that I am putting out in my poetry collection, Museum of Art and Eggs, which will be coming out this next February 27th in 2025. I feel like that's a fun thing to do, put out poetry collections on my birthday. So I thought I would read you that poem as it exists at this current moment as of recording. And yeah, that's fun. Can I call you Mikey? He requested of me with a rhyming shortening of his own for me to moan out in his f***ing sheets soft against my knee. Elio. A magic Italian spell from my father's blood. Dinner bell chiming feel through hell. Rare the love that festers unquelled, clumsy cracking spilled eggshell leaking through the clothes that lose their smell. Oliver. News always comes on holiday storms over gentle family plays, his goodbyes and my smile breaks, his siren song for siren's sake, yet I cling to all he says. I remember everything. Elio. Oliver. The peach is sweetest when it comes from the kiss of the man who leaves. He likes my music only once. I am a foreign vacation between his home stops, inside others who call him by my name.